Hey guys, so we are going to be looking at the review day 3 packet in this video. Again, our quiz is on Friday, which is tomorrow for us. We have a mixture of all the constructions that we've worked with so far in this packet. So let's get started with the first question. This packet, it also looks really similar to what you're going to be seeing on the quiz. So if you feel comfortable with this packet, then you should be perfectly fine when it comes time for the quiz. So question 1 says to construct an equilateral triangle using the segment provided below. So we're not really labeling anything. We're just using this side here to make an equilateral triangle. Again, an equilateral triangle has all three sides the same length. So all three sides, same length. Okay, so I'm gonna pretty much just stretch my compass to be the width of this segment here. You can turn your paper if you like so that it looks a little straighter to you. Totally up to you. And you're gonna take the point on one of the endpoints. Pencil should be on the other one. Just like that. Okay, and you can choose to either swing it above or below. You don't have to do both here because we're just making a triangle. So I'm gonna go above and make an arc here. And then do the same thing from this other endpoint. Arc. And then you'll see an intersection point. You're just going to put a point there. And then that's the third vertice of the triangle. So you just have to connect these two endpoints here to that point that you just made. So, that's your equilateral triangle. And looking at the second question, we have bisect the angle provided below. So we are bisecting an angle. First thing you do with the bisecting an angle construction is you put your compass, put the point of it on the corner of this angle, so at the vertex of the angle. And I'm going to just fix my compass so that it'll fit on the angle itself. And I'm going to just make an arc. So I'm going to go just like this. Let's make an arc like that. It should touch both sides of the angle itself. It should be intersected. And what you're now going to do is, I like to make these actual points here. You don't have to. If you're comfortable with not doing that, then that's totally fine. I like to do it because it's easier for me to see it. And I'm going to just take the compass and place the point on one of those intersection points that we made. And it doesn't matter if you keep your compass stretched the same or if you change the stretch of it. It's up to you. You're just going to make an arc in between the two sides of the angle, in between the two rays. And then keep your compass stretched the same and place the point of it on the other intersection point we made before and make another arc. Okay. So for this one, you're really focusing on these two arcs that you just drew, and you're making a point where they intersect. And then you're going to use your ruler to just draw a ray right through that. So there is our angle bisector. So looking at question 3, we're bisecting the segment provided below. So we're cutting this segment in half pretty much. Again, you can turn your paper so that, turn it this way so it's not falling off. You can turn your paper so that this segment is flat for you. And what you're going to do, just take your compass and place the point on one of these endpoints. So I'm going to start on this side. And I'm going to just stretch my compass so that it's a little more than halfway through that segment, just like this. And I'm going to make an arc above and below it. So I like to make the two little pieces. You can make the full arc, it's up to you. Keep your compass stretched the same, and then do the same thing from the other endpoint. Just make sure that you have two intersecting points there. And when you have that, make a point where you see these arcs cross over each other, where they intersect. And then you're going to just use your ruler to connect them. And then boom, there is your segment bisector. All right, take a look at number 4. Number 4, let me adjust. All right, so number 4 says construct a perpendicular line through point P that is not on the line. So we're going to start by placing our compass on point P. The point of your compass should be on point P, just like this. And you're going to stretch your compass enough that when you make an arc, when it crosses over this line, it should cross over the line twice. So there's 1, 2. And then for me, again, where the intersection points are, I always like to make the point a little easier to see. So I have those 2 points right there. And what I'm going to do now is kind of like what I just did with question number 3. I'm going to just place the point of my compass on one of those points we just made, stretch it a little more than halfway, and then make an arc above and below. So let's do that. So I'm going to start on this side, placing the point of my compass on this intersection point we made, and I'm going to make an arc, but I want to make this a little smaller. So it's still a little more than halfway between the 2 points that we made. So I'm going to make an arc above the line and below it. And then keep my compass stretch the same and place it on the other intersection point now. Make an arc above and below. And then mark these points we've got. And then use your ruler to connect them. Just like that. Okay. That's a perpendicular line. Oh, I forgot to connect it through P. It's got to go through P. There we go. Okay. So if it's a perpendicular line that has to go through point P, make sure that it's going through that point. Okay, even though it's not on the line and it's not the 2 intersection points that are here, you need to connect all 3. So don't forget that. All right, so let's take a look at number 5. We're copying this angle. So we don't have anything to start with for this question. What I suggest doing is taking your ruler and just making a line off to the side so that you have something to work with. So there's my starting line. And I'm going to just make a point here. That'll be like my vertex, essentially, of this new angle that I'm making. So I'm going to make this point here a little more exaggerated. And I'm going to start by taking the point of my compass and placing it on this point right here. So let's do that. And then make an arc. Arc that will cross over. Pencil down. Okay. Let's try that again. Make an arc. That will cross both rays of that angle, and then keep your compass stretched the same and place the point of it now on this point we made here and do the same thing, but make it a little bit of a bigger arc because we need to see a little more of it so we can kind of have a decent amount to work with, is what I like to say. Now what you're going to do once you have that second arc there on our new picture, you're going to take your compass and stretch it to be the width of this arc right here from those 2 intersection points. So I'm going to place the point of my compass on one of those spots and the pencil on the other. Just like that. And then I'm going to shift it over and place the point of my compass now over here and make an arc just like that. So you can see an intersection point. Where you do, just make a point there, and then now you can use your ruler to connect these 2 points together. Boom. There's our copied angle. Okay. So even though I will say this angle that we're given here does look perpendicular, but there isn't anything telling us that, so we can't do the perpendicular construction through a point. You can only do that if they tell you you have a right angle or that you have a right triangle. You just have to be careful with what choosing to do. It does look like a right angle, but it is not here in this case. We have no information about that. Okay. All right. So I'm just realizing actually that for question 6, the actual picture of it is on the back of the page. So question 6, it says construct a line perpendicular to the point, to the line provided below through point P that's on the line. So again, that picture is on the back side of this page. So the question was here, the picture is over here. So we're creating a perpendicular line through this specific point here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to actually flip my paper too, so it's a little easier to work with. And I'm going to make sure that it's stretched enough that my compass will be able to make a mark on each side of P on this line. So here, notice how I had to adjust it, like over here, the line's not long enough, so I made it smaller to make sure that my pencil of my compass will touch the line here, and then if I swing it onto the other side of P, it does touch on this side too. So I want to make sure that it will touch the line on both sides. So once you make those 2 marks, again, you can make a point here and one here. And then now I'm going to take the point of my compass, place it on one of those points we just made, stretch the compass to be a little more than halfway through these 2 points that we made here. And I'm going to make an arc above, one below, and then do the same thing from that other point. Place the point of your compass there, and then make an arc above and below. Then we're going to make these 2 points a little more able to see it, a little more pronounced. And then now you're going to connect all 3 of these points together because that perpendicular line we're drawing doesn't only have to go through these 2 points, it has to go through P. So let's make sure that we do that. Boom. There we go. That is our perpendicular line through a point that's on the line construction. Okay? So that's what it should look like when you turn your paper back to the right side up. Now looking at number 7, it says construct a line parallel to the line provided through point P. So I'm going to, again, turn my paper, because usually when we've been working with these questions, the line's down here, the point's up over here. What I like to do is I like to make a point all the way off to the side here, and then you use your ruler to draw a line that goes through this point and through P. Make sure it's exaggerated. It's okay if it goes through the words of the other question below it. And then this is pretty much the same thing as copying an angle. Like you use all the same movements. So I'm going to take the point of my compass now and place it on this point that we made right here. And I'm actually going to make sure that my compass width is smaller than the distance between this point and P here. I don't want it to be longer than P. And I'm going to make an arc so that it intersects both the line that I just drew and the line that we were provided. And then I'm going to take my compass, keep it stretched exactly the same, and place the point of it on P and make an arc again. And I'm going to make this arc come down a little bit more just so we have more to work with. Now, once you have those 2 down, you're going to take your compass and stretch it to be the width of this angle. We're essentially trying to measure the width of that angle that we created here. So I'm going to place the point on one of those intersection points, and I'm going to place the pencil on the other, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip my compass around, and I'm placing the point of it on where that intersection point is with the line we created. And then I'm making another arc. There we go. Okay, so I see an intersection point right here, and then that's the point along with P that I'm going to draw my parallel line through. So let's try that out. There we go. These guys are parallel. Turning my paper right side up again. That's what it should look like if you followed along with my direction there. So again, it's very similar to copying an angle. All right, looking at number 8, says copy triangle ABC such that triangle DEF is congruent to triangle ABC. Be careful and make sure you're labeling the points correctly. So this is really important here, this little piece of information, because we are given letters for each of the vertices of this triangle, and it has to match up with DEF. So we need to make sure that the vertices map up correctly. So if I have, I'm going to write it over here. If I have A, B, C, and it has to be congruent to triangle DEF, that order is exactly the same. So we have D, E, F. So that means that A maps to D, B maps to E, and C should map to F. Okay. Now, if you look at the space that we have to work with, we don't have anything to start with off to this side here. So we're just going to start by taking our ruler and just creating a line to work with. Okay. And I'm actually going to mark this point off to the side here. So that point, if it maps up to A here, so that means that that should be labeled D. Okay. And then once you have that, we're going to, I like to at least find the point that would also be on this line here. So we're going to try and find, if we're looking for C here, that should be F somewhere over here. So I'm going to take my compass and stretch it to be the width of AC. Do that, make sure it's the width of AC. Like that. And then you're going to shift it upward and place the point of your compass on D and make an arc that crosses through that line there. So we've got this right here. And again, if this is C here, this point has to be the next point that would map to C, which is F. So this is F here. Okay, so A maps to D, C maps to F. So now we just need to figure out, if this is B, we have to figure out where E is over here. So I'm going to take my compass and stretch it to be the width of AB to start with. So I'm going to place the point of it on A, try and make it so that the pencil is on B. There we go. There's B. Okay. And I'm going to shift this over and place the point of my compass on D now and make an arc like this. Okay. So that's telling me that E should be somewhere along this line once we have the other arc where we have the length of BC measured out. So do that. Stretch it to be the length of BC. There you go. And then now shift it over, place the point of your compass on F, and make an arc that crosses over the one we just drew, and mark that intersection point. And again, if that's B up here, then B maps to E, so that means that this point here should be E. Okay, and then now I have all 3 points. I just have to connect D and F to point E that we just found, and we'll have the congruent triangle. So let's do this. 1. There you go. There's our congruent triangle DEF. All right. Now looking at number 9. So 9 and 10 are the median and the altitude questions. Again, I will go over these. They're the same triangle, but you're asked to do different things to it, so that you can at least see what the difference between the two are. I do have the steps for them right below. So let's take a look at the median one, just because that's what question 9 is asking about. So the steps for constructing a median. Remember that a median is a segment from the vertex of a triangle that connects to the midpoint of the side opposite of that vertex. So in the example above in question 9, the median is a segment that will connect from point A to the midpoint of side BC, which you were asked to label the point as point D. So in this question, it says construct the median of triangle ABC such that it starts from point A. So I usually like to circle the starting point and I label it. And it has to intersect BC. So that means that first we have to find the midpoint of BC. Because that midpoint is what we have to connect A to. So I'll write that off to the side here, connect A to the midpoint of C. Okay, and then we're labeling that midpoint as point D. So this is what the midpoint is going to be labeled as. Okay, so let's take a look at this. To do that, to find the midpoint of BC, I am going to do a segment bisector construction. So I'm actually going to flip it so that BC is flat for me. And I'm going to start by placing the point of my compass on B, and I'm going to stretch it just so that it's a little more than halfway through the length of BC. So that works out fine, just like that. I'm going to make an arc above and below. And then keep it stretched the same, flip it so that the point of the compass is now on C, and do the same thing, make an arc above and below. Oh, see, my arc on the other side wasn't long enough. Let's fix that. There you go. Now we see the intersection point. So I'm gonna make a point here, one here, and I'm going to just take my pencil and connect these two. Okay, and then right here is the midpoint of BC, which is point D. Okay, and I am connecting A to point D now. So I found the midpoint, and then all you have to do is just connect that starting vertex that they asked you to that midpoint. And then this here is your, okay, well, and stuck on the letter for that point. Okay, so AD is the median. All right, then looking at 10, we have construct the altitude of triangle ABC such that it starts from point B and it intersects side AC. Label the intersection point, point D. So this is our starting point this time. And the altitude, the difference between the median and the altitude, the median starts from a vertex and it goes to the midpoint of this side that's opposite of that vertex. This one here, you start at a vertex and it just goes straight down and it's perpendicular to the opposite side. So it's not connecting to a midpoint, it's just perpendicular. So you can treat this as the perpendicular point off the line construction. Okay, the perpendicular line through a point off the line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking the point of my compass and placing it on B. And I'm going to make sure that I have to stretch this a little bit more. I'm going to make an arc so that it touches AC twice. So that's too small. So maybe for this one, let's extend out AC so that it's a little bit longer so we've got more room to work with. Let's do that. Okay, just so we have more room to make our construction correctly without having to stress about the width of the compass. So you can make it a little wider now because you have more to work with. And again, it should touch this line here twice. So I'm going to make an arc. Here's 1 and 2. Here's 1. Here is the second point. And now I'm going to take my compass, place the point of it on this point here, stretch it to be a little more than halfway through the width of these 2 points. that, make an arc above and below. And then do the same thing from this other endpoint. Arc above and below. And I'm gonna now make these 2 points. There, here. And I'm going to start at B and just make sure it connects. This here is perpendicular, and that would be your altitude. So here is your altitude. Okay, and this point here, we also were supposed to label it as D. So here, BD is the altitude. And that's it.
School today is a B day. We just have to